Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market, where every day we discuss everything to do with the modern market, that is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to hopefully make some or ideally a lot of money on the internet. Loaded up discussion today. We've got a big conversation about Believe, the Believe app. They're making $4 million a day at the moment. That's what they did yesterday. Launchcoin is fell on the news that they're going to stop featuring new projects to focus on those already building. Still trading at around 250 million, though. We'll talk about that in a bit. We've got the Ethos Foundation announcing the $1 trillion security initiative. We'll touch on what that is and how ETH is doing. And then finally, the Maplestory token in Web3 gaming launched at a $3 billion FDV. Very impressive launch. We'll touch on that. Definitely headline worthy news. We'll also touch on the latest crypto price action on crypto and NFTs as usual. Today, I've got Legendary in the co-host seat with me, plus very special guest. Got our good friend in real life and good friend of the show, Austin from Doodles. Great to have you with us, my man. How are you doing?
Great to be here, guys. Doing well. Excited to dive in today.
Excited to have you from the start of the show. We were just saying beforehand, you might creep in towards the end when it's a more reasonable time for you, but we got you here from the beginning today.
You got me for the full time. Yeah, usually I sneak in for like the last 15, 20, but excited to dive in.
Yeah, you always have a fantastic ability. Like whenever we're talking Doodles, like you're always there. Absolutely always there. It's like your ears are burning whenever we've got the Doodles conversation going. So we will touch in with Doodles and like what you guys have been going through and what you guys are building at the moment, because I think it's an interesting conversation to have. And then we'll just get into the usual show as usual too. Because we've got a lot of interesting things to discuss. Legendary, checking in with you. How are you doing your side? You're back at the station, back at the trading desk. Legendary Trading Inc. is now open for business again, I guess.
GM, yeah, I'm back at the gambling desk, how we call it these days, because we're back into meme season.
You're a bit quiet, by the way, Ledge. Maybe switch up the gain just a touch.
Yeah. Is it better now?
I think so, yeah.
Wonderful, cool. See, first day back at the gambling desk, and I still need to set up all the buttons and make sure everything works. The one thing I've been wondering about always is how Austin does it. Like, we had multiple situations where we did not have Doodles in the snapshot. It wasn't the title of the spaces. We mentioned it either as a part of the NFT discussion in the beginning or towards the end, and he just appeared. And I don't know how you did it, Austin. Like, what is the secret? How did you pull that off?
So yeah, this is the first time that I'm revealing this live, but there are actually multiple Austins. There's the only way that is possible is that I actually have clones that exist everywhere at all times, and they just let primary Austin know when to jump on when they hear things about Doodle. So it's all a facade. There are multiple me's. That's how I get it done.
Which version is with us today? Is it primary Austin?
Oh, you get Alpha Austin. Yeah.
Nice.
This is primary Alpha Austin for sure.
Okay, good. We're gonna need some of that alpha then, because that's what obviously the market's hot at the moment. Maybe a little bit of a cool down today, but I'm curious to discuss much of the rest of the market with you too, because I know that you've been participating in general when we've been catching up beforehand in a variety of ways. So we'll get into all of that and more in just a little bit. As usual, though, let's get everyone up to speed with what is going on in the market today to catch people up, starting with the majors as usual. We have everything just kind of a touch red today. We've got Bitcoin down a couple of percent to $101,000. You've got ETH down a couple of percent to 2.5. You've got BNB down 1%. You've got Sol down 6% to 169. Just checking in on Sui and Hype, because we've been talking about them a lot as well. Sui's down 6% to $3.70. That was as high as $4 something at one point. Hype's also down 3% to $24.50. On the meme coin side of things, stuff is also cooling down. Still up on the week, but Doge is down 5%. Pepe's down 5%. Trump's down 7%. Fartcoin is down 8%. Pengu's down a couple of percent too. Popcat's down 12. Generally red. Fairly easy to say, generally red. Bucking that trend is the Launchcoin coin itself, obviously from the Believe app. That's up 24% to 260 mil FDV. We'll be talking about that a little bit more. The ecosystem coins actually for that though are down. You've got Goon down 40%, Dupe down 60%, Giggles down 25%, Noodle down 34%. I don't know what products are attached to all these allegedly kind of Web 2 product built tokens. Buddy's down 60%. So, a lot of volatility in that ecosystem today. Probably, it's to be expected, I think. Getting into the headlines themselves, we have, where are we? Here we go. We've got the Belief founder actually coming out and saying that they'll stop featuring new projects, and they're going to focus on what's already being built. So that, I think, caused some people to question where this was going. They're earning a lot of money, like $4 million yesterday, and so people are, figuring out the investment thesis. Let's put it like that. Next, Ethereum Foundation announced the $1 trillion security initiative. This is going to be like an ETH audit such that it can attract, with the goal being that we need to get this asset or get this chain in a position to attract billions of users to hold $1,000 each on ETH. That was the specific wording that they used to put this idea out into the world. And then finally, Maplestory, the Web3 gaming token launched at a $3 billion FDV. We'll touch on that towards the end of the show today. Some notable other price action, mostly in the launch coin, the Believe ecosystem. Yappa ran to 20 million before crashing to 7 mil. Another coin called Unicorn ran to 25 mil, which also pulled back to 7 mil. I think when you have these like really rapid rises and then like fast crashes, the market's getting sick of it and starting to think, right, look, we got to get out of some of this stuff. And that's what's happening at the moment. And then in general, the rest of the market is kind of red. Legendary, is there anything going on the NFT side whilst all this stuff is happening that we need to know?
Yeah, the NFT side is also mostly red, both on the day as well as on the week. Pudgies are down 9% on the day, falling under the 10 ETH floor, 9.8 ETH floor for the Pudgies, down 20% almost on the week. Bored Apes are the exception from the majors. They're up 4.5% over the last day, 12.5 ETH floor. However, still down 8% over the week. The one collection that is standing out in terms of some more notable and positive price action, and I assume you might have touched on it yesterday already, are the Ethos Validators. This 256 pieces are up again and now sitting at a 3.4 ETH floor. I think when it came out initially, the first bids hit at 0.3 ETH. So definitely a nice airdrop for the people who contributed most to Ethos.
Damn. I did not know that the first bids were hit at 0.3. I know that some people were selling between 1 and 1.5. So yeah, I think these interesting, it's kind of not quite modeled on the Kaito NFT model, which was also a small collection. I think there was only 750 Kaito NFTs, or was there 1,000 or something very small? And in a similar way, here there's only 250. You can see why, like, you can get some very significant buy pressure on those when the collection is so small and so exclusive in that sense. Ledge, I think you got one of these validator NFTs. Are you chilling with it at the moment? Pretty content with that?
Yeah, I am playing the Kaito playbook. I don't have any intention of selling that. Even if it goes to 10 ETH or whatever, I'm just very happy to hold it because it's the same with the Kaito model for me. Obviously with Kaito, I have the staked Kaito, I have the NFT. We don't know yet all the follow-on benefits that happened. We've seen multiple airdrops stemming from that ecosystem, and to me, the potential to have these follow-up benefits is just higher than now flipping for an additional 3 ETH that I don't really care about having or not having in my portfolio.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, I think the follow-on benefits from like the strength of Kaito has been very significant for a lot of people involved. Austin, just bringing you in here before we do the rest of the roundup, as kind of head of strategy and biz dev at Doodles, what have you observed or found interesting about Kaito? Like, do you find it interesting? Is it something that Doodles look at all? How are you approaching it from the business perspective? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Before diving into that, because I definitely have thoughts. I was curious also on Ledge's perspective on Ethos overall, because I think I was in the top 1,000. I didn't get a validator NFT, but it was really hard to make the time every day to carve out doing the streak.
100%.
Like you had to really think about it. Like there's not like a really strong hook. And so I wonder how they solve for that long term. I think the Chrome extension is like a good start. Being able to actually do reviews in browser would be like infinitely better than having to leave what you're doing. And that's why like I think Kaito is right now a much better product, where it's just like you sign up once, you don't even have to go back, and you're earning so long as you're yapping. To answer your question directly though about Kaito, I had gotten some flack in the community because I took a pretty negative stance to Kaito as it related to our own TGE. Reason being, my thesis was basically, one, if you create something worth talking about, incentives are already aligned for people to talk about it. Like, creators are going to want to talk about it because it is going to generate impressions and views. Two, we saw the same people on every airdrop get the allocation. You know, it was the B-checks and legendaries and whales of the world, which you guys are doing an incredible service, but we didn't see as many like emerging creators getting it. I do think that Wayfinder did a pretty good job there, although they caught some flack for then just focusing on emerging content creators. So it's really tough to get it right. I will say, in a post TGE world, we're actually reevaluating our Kaito strategy. Reason being, we think that like we could continue to grow our awareness overall, and that there is a space for these type of rewards. And in having a liquid token in market with an ecosystem fund, it makes a lot more sense to have some of that dedicated to effectively paid advertising. So our perspective has kind of like opened up a little bit, and expect, at least from the Doodles end, like we will probably do something, whether it's with Kaito or with Cookie or both, as they're developing these products.
That's really, really interesting. So you're making the clear distinction between like pre-TGE, there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of people maybe talking about it purely for the financial reward, but post-TGE, you see that as like a kind of a new horizon potentially.
You're never, I think in terms of I've heard the expression like you're never as hot as before you TGE. Like we think we did a pretty good job getting people to talk about Dude leading into the TGE. Now it's okay, as we're building all this utility, as Dreamnet is launching, as we're doing all these things in the agentic economy, there's a lot to write about, there's a lot to talk about, there's a lot to understand. They're like very like cutting edge ideas. It makes a lot more sense to have people, you know, being paid to do so, I think.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Les, do you have a view in that direction, or should we just come with the roundup? I think we're actually going to circle back to this in a sense, because there's some more Kaito news which I wanted to touch on in the roundup. But Les, anything to add?
Yeah, just to answer Austin's question on Ethos, because you're absolutely right. There's like a break. You have to leave the platform to do something else. And I typically would agree with you that I don't think this is sustainable. However, here I think the difference is that we've seen reviews either being their own business model or being such an important part of places like Amazon or other online shopping experiences, or like even Google reviews. Like, I don't go to a restaurant without reading reviews previously, that this is already established. And I think for that reason, you will always have people who will even take the time to want to write the review and voice their opinion or the criticism. And yes, it has to get easier to write those reviews and feel more integrated. But if it were a new business model that forces you to leave and go out of your way to leave X and do something, we've seen that fail many times. But because I think it's something that's so established and like such a big part of like everyday life, the review writing, and it can be optimized to feel better, I do think it has a decent chance to stand the test of time.
Good stuff. Yeah, the crucial thing I think I realized as I was like trying to participate on Ethos as well is that I do think it's cool. It does have a use case. I think it's actually distinct from Kaito, and those two things you probably want to use together rather than one or the other, because you get this kind of maybe more long-lasting reputational information that might span a bit longer on Ethos, and you get this more up-to-date reach measurement on Kaito. And yeah, the usability thing is definitely a thing. Kaito is beautiful because you just don't need to think about it. You just go about your normal business and it's like logging everything, whereas Ethos, you got to log in. And ultimately that was the reason why I just couldn't keep logging in. I couldn't keep it logging in either. So I definitely sympathize there. Let's just get you up to speed with the rest of the news. To get you up to speed, there's all kinds of stuff going on. Seriously, we had this is back to the roundup. We've got Tether announcing QVAC. This is a development platform for infinite intelligence. We kind of touched on this the other day when we talked about Tether AI. This is to enable AI models to fully run on users' devices, eliminating the need for cloud connectivity. We talked about Tether, obviously having the money. They've got the chain coming in the form of Plasma, and then you've got these AI agent layer, which they also want to own too. So that's very interesting. JP Morgan made their first public blockchain transaction for tokenized treasuries using Ondo. Standard Chartered Bank signed a partnership with FalconX for institutional crypto clients. You've got Synthetics proposing to acquire options and perps exchange Derive. What are the other interesting things here? Crypto and equities trading platform eToro announced high demand at $52 per share. They're going to IPO at around 4.2 billion. That's where the demand is at the moment. MetaMask co-founder said that a token for the protocol is still a maybe. If they don't drop a token, this is illegal behavior. Teasing this token for, I'm pretty sure in 2021, Ledge, were we not trading NFTs thinking that MetaMask were going to do a token? Is that not right?
Yeah, that's correct. And I remember that. And I specifically remember Beanie, who said he burned either 10K or 100K in fees.
I remember that specifically as well. Yeah. I definitely tried to burn some fees 4 years ago, thinking I might get a MetaMask token. So let's see if that ever comes. Very interesting data. Polymarket had a new market creations all-time high at 7,000 over April. But although the total number of traders are down, so people are creating more markets, but the number of traders are down. In other interesting news, $80 million of Fartcoin was bridged over to Hyperliquid. I think this is super significant. I've been speaking about Hyperliquid for a while. It's the most bridged asset in the last 24 hours. Remember, this protocol called Unit is facilitating all of these, select assets that are very traded to get brought over to Hyperliquid. So we'll see how much of Fartcoin volume moves over. I think it was quite a lot yesterday. Solana lending protocol Camino announced season 3 is over. Airdrop tracker is live if you were using that. Rec Drinks appeared to tease an OpenSea partnership. Rafiq Anadol will be collaborating with Lionel Messi on a piece which will visualize Messi's favorite career goal. And then some interesting bits coming out of the social crypto ecosystem. Kaito announced daily Virgin points, which have been distributed to eligible yappers. That's in partnership with Virtuals. You've got Sol Protocol announcing 1.5% of the upcoming token supply to yappers. And then also Infinex saying that, teasing that yappers are going to be pretty happy in the next few days. So that's the roundup to get everyone up to speed with everything. We'd be curious for your thoughts immediately then, Austin, on, because this was the thing I wanted to bring up. The thing I was talking to Legendary offline, actually, before you just joined, like the part of the thesis for Kaito, if you were bullish, is that some of these percentages are getting quite high. And it's almost, maybe that's to your point. It's like, is this proportionate? Is it proportionate to when you're thinking about dividing all of that stuff? So Sol Protocols announced 1.5% of the upcoming token supply to yappers and the wider Kaito ecosystem. Like, that just sounds high, which look, could be super bullish if you're staking Kaito or in the ecosystem. Feels instinctively high to me, but I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's dependent on the time period. This is also why I'm particularly interested in post TG, because 1.5% over 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, it looks a lot different than 1.5% over the 2 weeks leading to TG or the month leading to TG. So yeah, I would agree with you on that point. And yeah, they are getting pretty high, but you compare that, I think a lot of teams are just taking that as like an advertising budget. Like if you were to spend that money traditionally on socials and like paid promo and what your attribution rates would look like, you're actually still getting, depending on what your token is launching at, like a pretty good deal. So I do think it's worth it for a lot of teams, particularly teams that don't have a lot of built-in community or a lot of like content creation already happening for them.
Okay. And they did it in a pretty smart way, because the 1.5% are split up as follows. So 0.5% go to top Sol yappers. That's basically the only like free B for people who don't use the platform, who don't use this protocol. The other 0.5% go to yappers based on the amount of seeds which is the product point system that Sol Protocol uses, which basically means you need to use the protocol. And the other goes to the Kaito ecosystem, also using total seed milestones. So basically, out of the 1.5%, 2/3, 1% goes to people who are using the platform, and only 0.5% is being given away, quote unquote, for free to people who talk about the protocol. So it's a smart way because they come up with this like big headline number of 1.5% of TG that even gets us talking, but actually 2/3 of that is tied to using the protocol.
Exactly. So that is exactly that correct. And the thing I wanted to emphasize to people, even more kind of diving into that headline number, I actually went through the logging because I wanted to experience what it was, because I thought this is one of the highest numbers I've seen so far. Let me see like what it entails. In order to get those seeds that you just mentioned, there's like a whole set of stages, Austin. So when you're talking about time frame, it's exactly right. It's like, look, what are you going to have to do to get that 1.5%? This is not just tweet about us a few times and get, be a part of the 1.5%. This is stage one. You need to do all of these things in order to get a certain number of seeds. Then it's like stage two, connect your socials, retweet a certain tweet, connect your Discord, connect your Telegram. Then stage two, stage three, stage four, stage five, and all of them has like a different number of seeds. So it's like a full-on quest program that they basically designed. So it's way bigger than. Yeah,
that's really smart, and I think that's how all teams should be looking at divvying these up. The challenge is typically pre-TG. There's not always necessarily a product in market, and so like all you're able to really reward is people talking about something that could or is coming, rather than post TG actually being able to leverage the product, unless you're already in market. So no, I really like it. I think we'll take a lot of learnings from that as we think about Dreamnet coming to market, having people create agents, kind of like going through our entire flow and being able to reward them and seeing this as like an incentive structure for that, and then talking about it. So I think they're doing it the right way.
Okay. Yeah, I think yeah, it's definitely interesting. I think it's a natural evolution of what happened with airdrops. At one point in time, airdrops was just like, oh, I use this protocol, now I've got a ton of money. Like they would actually I mean, the word airdrop was airdrop because they would actually airdrop you the money. You didn't have to even do anything. There's no sign up, there's no claim, there's none of this like nonsense. And so it was super easy. In the same way, I think the first stage of Yappa rewards was just like, oh, I just tweeted about this thing, I've got a ton of money now. And the evolution of airdrops was, okay, you use the product, then it's, okay, you've got to use the product, but you've got this point system and we're going to be tracking you in these various ways. Then it's like, okay, we've got to, do all these other various things. There's more hoops to jump through. And so it's just like everyone getting a bit more sophisticated about how to get their value for the value that they're going to give out. So I think that's super interesting. And it's just the natural evolution of this stuff, I think. Austin, you mentioned Dreamnet. Obviously, you guys launched, I think it was one week today. It feels like longer ago. It's Friday last week, right?
6 days ago. Yeah. So Friday last week.
So first question, just like, how's it going? Like, how's it been post launch? Like, what are the emotions going around? How's the feeling in the team?
Yeah, I mean, I think we were talking off air. It's a bit of like you're running one marathon for so long. We've been working on this for well over 6 months for that to come out. And then you immediately start running the next much longer marathon, like a marathon that knows kind of no end. And so I think the team, is certainly excited and relieved to have it out. I think there were elements of the launch that we're really, really proud of. There are elements of the launch that I think if we're looking back, we can continue to improve in the future. But generally, just like we're happy that it was a win for our community and that we can just continue to build. We have a lot coming. Obviously, we've alluded to Dreamnet and how we're thinking about decentralized storytelling and leveraging AI to create these worlds and allow our communities to build them with us. We think that this is a completely new paradigm for storytelling and entertainment. And every blockchain and studio and distributor that we've talked to recognizes that and is very excited and trying to build with us. So now it's just about shipping. So the team is like super focused on just staying heads down and delivering product.
So I've got a question on I think on the pinned tweet on the Doodles account, there's like this brief explanation of what Dreamnet is. It says Dreamnet allows you to deploy tokenized AI agents whose sole purpose is to create law and autonomously generate max attention and engagement on social media. I think that's a really interesting direction to go in. A lot of the other kind of traditional Web3 IPs have just gone for tokenizing the brand, right? Like it's, Pengu is just a tokenized version of the Pudgy Penguins IP in some sense. Anime is like a tokenized version of the Azuki IP. You guys have like kind of had a bit of a leap here to dive into the AI and kind of give it its own life. What was the thinking behind that? And like what best describes like the vision for that?
Yeah, for us, when we decided we wanted to do a token, we wanted to ensure that it had real utility within our ecosystem. And yes, it could be mimetic by nature. I think anytime that you're an IP that has a token associated with you, there will be large swaths of people that participate and collect that token because they want an affinity with the brand. And as the brand grows, they'll want to continue to collect and increase the awareness of it. And that exists, I think, for all of us. But we have a product that we think really solves a problem that not only we have, but we know that other IPs and studios and creators have, which is in a world of effectively infinite content creation, the most valuable things to exist are the data lakes for the respective IPs. So if you look at like Star Wars, it's been around for decades, and there are various like data pods, if you will, everything that they've created in their centralized manner, all their films, their books, their video games, all of that represents like a vast amount of data, all of the fan fiction that they've created. We believe that we're moving to a place where like there is an infinite world state that is always persistent and on. So the ability to just like speak into existence any type of game you want, any type of experience, and spin that up quickly, almost instantaneously. And so in order to do that, you need data to refer to. If you're a nascent IP like us, we basically have one writer's room that we're developing, and we're developing our lore Bible, and we're putting out these shorts. You'll never catch up, especially in a world of AI where it can just be infinitely created. And so traditionally throughout history, the way that you do catch up is open source. You have other people create with you, you incentivize them, and that's kind of like the rebellion against closed source systems. The challenge with that is when you decentralize is coordination. Like, how do you ensure that all these stories match up, all the lore matches up, that you're identifying what the market actually cares about? And that's where tokenization actually makes a lot of sense. If you tokenize the individual characters and the stories and the places and things, and you let the market determine what it deems to be valuable, well, now you have something that actually has resonance, that people can then, that want to build applications on top of, that want to create these worlds on top of, can refer to know what is actually important within that universe. And so, yeah, we're excited to have Dude be the base token for the first universe in Dreamnet, which is Doodles. So all of the agents will be base paired with Dude. All of the individual places and things will be base paired with Dude. The easiest comparison I think a lot of people are making right now is like Virtuals with their agent launchpad.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, it's like it's close enough. Like it's where it's
how much inspiration have you taken from Virtuals, and how much do you see it? Like, is that the competition? Because I don't think Doodles immediately, people view Doodles as like, okay, it's the competition would be Virtuals necessarily. I guess maybe in design potentially, or is it just inspiration?
Yeah, I mean it is closer in competition than I would say like IP brands. Like, sure. In the sense that like it is an agent launchpad to start. That's like the first iteration of it. I think and like we'll build like commerce protocols and things similar to Virtuals in that respect. And so we take a lot of inspiration from them. We've spoken to them. We've spoken to the Eliza team and everyone kind of like building in this space. And certainly there will be some overlap. So if that is like the comparison that helps it like stick with people for now, like that's a fine one to make.
Fair enough. Yeah. And, you know, we've been speaking about virtuals a lot. They've been in the news a lot. They've just gone live with these version points, and their whole ecosystem has been, I guess, redesigned after version 1. So it must be pretty interesting for you guys to be able to kind of look back on that and, you know, redesign or design the ecosystem with like a few people that have gone before you to learn from and stuff. So that's super interesting, man. Glad we got to touch in with what's going on with Doodles, because it was a pretty interesting direction, I think, that you guys went with, something that was a little bit unexpected from like the traditional IP stuff. So that's very, very cool. Let's get into the main headlines then. We'll move into, should we start with the LaunchCoin stuff? That's probably the hottest piece of news so far. We had the news that the Believe founder Ben Pasternak says that new projects featured will stop. They will stop featuring the new projects, and they'll only focus on the ones that are already building. LaunchCoin fell on that news, but it's still trading around 250 million. Trying to look at a new number for that to get you an up-to-date one. It's 280 million now. So fell initially. Now people decided they don't mind, and it's going to go up anyway. However, the rest of the coins in the ecosystem have definitely taken a bit of a turn in the last 24 hours. Goon's down 34%, Jupe is down 50%, Giggles is down 27%, Noodle is down 34%, Aura is down 25%. And I'm just wondering whether this other site that I have has any more of the move. This one doesn't track the changes. So, okay. Basically, the rest of the market is down a little bit. Ansem had this interesting take, which I think was interesting about this kind of new meta. And I think a lot of people immediately, including myself and a lot of other people, it came out kind of against this whole thing, calling it out as, how would you describe it? It was quite performative to be claiming that this was going to be changing the game and it's going to be internet capital markets. And we had that meme return. And I think a lot of people spoke out against that. It's like, this is kind of just dressed up meme coins running again. Anton had this interesting take, which I'd be curious for both of your perspectives on. He said, every new meta in crypto gets called dumb by the majority of crypto Twitter. I don't think I've ever seen an emerging one be celebrated. The issue is you cannot accurately determine whether the new meta will fail or not at the onset, and not participating is usually expensive because they get their own speculative premium regardless of if they end up succeeding long term. Legendary, curious to come to your take. You first here. I don't know how much you participated in this thing, because I know you're on a bit of a break last week. Had you been here at the desk, what would have been your perspective? Or, you know, it's still going on technically now. How are you viewing it?
Look, typically I'm not a big fan of Ansem, not at all. But I have to say I 100% agree with this take. And I find many things dumb, but I still do them in this space. I found it very dumb to buy AI agents early on when they were trading at, I don't know, when AXPT was trading under 10 mil. I was like, that's dumb. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting as well. So let's do it. And I don't believe that internet capital markets are back. I don't believe that LaunchCoin has a long-term future. But A, I could be wrong. And B, it doesn't matter what I believe. It's like literally irrelevant to the market. It just matters where volume is flowing and what is being traded and where money is flowing into early. And I'm very, very happy to trade that. And I feel I can live with that pretty well. I can trade something and be of the opinion that it's dumb. But that's true. Like typically we don't embrace new metas. Like I remember vividly how Clemente, for example, was hating on all the AI agents all the Roundup and was making video after video, got amazing engagement, and the videos were hilarious. So it's very, much aligned with human nature to not be embracing new things, to be skeptical about that. And I feel like we are exacerbating that in crypto and like are very quick to call things dumb. And most of them are dumb and they don't turn out to go anywhere. But there's still those amazing opportunities to be made. And for the few things that actually stick around and that will remain impactful, you just can't afford to miss them. So I'd rather participate, can secretly hate on the things, not even secretly. I publicly said that I think internet capital markets are dumb, but then I'm also trading them to make money on them. So Very much aligned with this trade, with this take.
I completely agree. I completely agree with that. Specifically, I think I tweeted about it yesterday as well. I think this whole thing is just a meme. However, it does look like they've supercharged this meme in particular, Austin. One of the things that have come out in this case is the launch coin team. Let me get the right statistic here. This was Tyler sharing this morning. Legendary, do you have the tweet? Actually, I've got it here. But if you've got it as well, you can share it on screen. Launch coins trading like people are seeing that the Believe app made $4.2 million yesterday. Pretty sure that's more than Hyperliquid. Because of the way the fees structure is designed, it means that they're making a ton. What are your thoughts on this whole ecosystem and how it's popped up and the internet capital meme? And are you trading this as a kind of individual trader, or what's your kind of business take on it as well?
Yeah, I mean, this seemed fairly obvious that it would pop up again. It was a matter of when, not if. It's funny, the product guys and I have had like a very similar idea, which was a very obvious idea. It just didn't make sense for us to execute, obviously, within Doodles. These things are gonna cool off. I think a lot of businesses are going to have to grapple with, or they're going to learn very quickly what it looks like to release these type of collectibles, and then have a community that is wondering, what are you doing to ensure price go up? So it may look, I kind of like look at it in two lenses. From a business model perspective, similar to Pump Fund, it is an incredible business model. like awesome in terms of the amount of fees that they're generating. They're the winners, right? Like in the gold rush, you want to be supplying the picks and shovels. That's what they're doing. For the individual token launches and the businesses that are launching on there, it's a one-way door. And so I am curious to see what the fallout will look like 6, 12, 18 months from now. But as a market participant, yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. Like there are opportunities everywhere you look, and you can discredit a meta as having long-term viability, but it doesn't mean that it won't have opportunities as a trader in the short term.
I don't disagree with anything that you've just said either. I think that all very, very sensible from a business perspective. As you say, either these people just disappear in a little bit after they've got the money they need, or they ship something later. The hit rate is going to be very, very low. But maybe that's part of the point. The success rate is always super low when it comes to people being hyper successful. This is just like some speculative mania to launch these ideas off into the market. Legendary, someone commented, this was a good, how would you respond to this from a trading perspective or an investing perspective? Toneworld in the Twitter comment said, it does not make sense, disagreeing with you. It does not make sense because you miss more money FOMOing in late. You probably are better off ignoring new metas as always, and some engagement farming. Keep your coins. The extraction by bots and snipers has been real. How do you manage that? Look, that is a thing that happens for sure. You don't want to be the person buying the launch coin top, because the thing is, this time around, everyone knows it's coming at some point. But everyone's kind of buying on top of the Ponzi. So what do you do personally to like manage that, to try to make sure you're not at the back end of it and, towards the beginning, whatever that might mean?
Look, the only thing in my opinion that you can do is to be like brutally honest to yourself. And I was on holiday. I'm definitely late to all this launch coin stuff. There might be runners where will be happy and able to trade them, but I'm definitely not buying the main token. With other things like Vader and AIXPT, like I think you had 2 weeks to buy Vader under 100K, and you had probably like a month to buy that for under 1M. So like you have to be brutally honest to yourself if you're early or if you're not early. If you're FOMOing in because Ansem and all the other big guys are talking about that, yes, there still might be a nice way up, but you also have to admit that you're like mid to late to something. And you're early when you're checking like the big KOLs accounts and be like, ooh, maybe Ansem will post about that. Or maybe with the AI meta, one of the A16Z guys will post about that. And then the token might run. I remember when we bought Project 89, and we're like checking A16Z and other VC related accounts. We're waiting for someone to post about that, and that was early on. It was at 4 million. Token went to what? To 1 point something, 1.2, 1.3 bill. With AI16Z and Project 89 went to 100 mil from the like very low lows. So the only thing you can do is really be honest to you. Are you FOMOing in because people are talking about it, or are you actually early to something? And if it's on X, if the big names are talking about that,
Yeah.
it in 4 alpha groups already, you're not early to that.
Yeah, I like it. Also, there's this in like, you know, when you're early because it feels a bit sick to like, you feel a bit uncertain. Like you're meant to feel like if you're feeling a bit sick, like I don't know, because the point about being early is you're not getting any confirmation from anyone else. There's no confirmation of someone to validate your thinking because you're the person validating yourself, which is why I've started to think like to be early to something, you kind of like investing in general, actually, it requires a bit of imagination. Like it's not something that people talk about as an investor, but you actually need to be able to imagine the future that's going to play out and then validate that yourself, because no one else is going to be doing that for you, because no one's done that thinking for you. Someone else. So I kind of like this idea. I've been playing around with it more, that to be a good investor, you need to have some imagination, because you need to be the one that's like playing out the scenarios in your head. So that would be our response, I think. So that's pretty interesting. Conscious of time, got 11 minutes left. Want to hit these next couple of bits of news. Legendary Ethereum Foundation $1 trillion security initiative. I just like the name personally, but maybe it'd be helpful if you told us what it actually means, and why it might be important.
Yeah, $1 trillion security, 1TS, is an initiative by the Ethereum Foundation, which basically says that Ethereum is the most secure, most trusted blockchain ecosystem today. However, the ambitions of ETH go far, far beyond that, and they need to achieve $1 trillion security, which means being in a world where billions of people feel safe and comfortable to hold $1,000 on chain and collectively holding trillions of dollars together. This initiative, the 1TS, how they call it, has 3 parts to it. First of it being mapping security strengths and attack vectors to produce security overview reports, execute on the highest priority issues as a second part, and obviously communicating effectively about ETH's security properties as a result of that. The interesting part of that is exactly, well, not only the initiative per se, but exactly what you said. You like the name because the name is great. It basically alludes to a world where the TVL on ETH and ETH related ecosystems should surpass $1 trillion. And that points to a very clear, to a very strong vision. And I feel like it is part of, after the ETH Foundation went to this bit of a rebranding and not necessarily rebranding, but also like revamping the communication efforts, there's still this discussion going on of what ETH actually is. Is it digital oil? Is it the app store of the blockchain? Is it money?
ETH is arguing. That's what I commented to your tweet this morning.
Exactly. ETH is arguing. And I feel like things and initiatives like this that help you to establish like a headline figure. Oh, they want to have more than $1 trillion on chain. They want that billions of people feel comfortable to hold money on ETH, are very, very helpful to solve what for me is one of the biggest challenges that ETH is facing, which is this lack of like clear and strong narrative and tag what actually ETH is and where they are going. So I do think, yes, the initiative is important on a technical level, but also it's important that, and this is why they made it the third step out of the 3 steps that they disclosed, to actually talk about it and talk about the progress and like probably reiterate this $1 trillion security message.
Interesting. Yeah, I like it. I like it, to be honest. I think it's good branding. I think it's a good message for people who are trying to push ETH. Deep down, it's kind of touching. When we were speaking with Adam from Proof of Play yesterday on the show, there's something about ETH which, like, I want to do the big boy finance on ETH. Like, I don't care if it's built out on Solana. I'm not going to do it there for whatever reason. Maybe that's biased in some way, but that's when I want to do the big stuff. I want to do it on ETH. And that even the way that that's phrased, I think, plays into that. Question for you, Austin. You guys obviously built out on ETH initially. All your NFTs are on on ETH, I think, and then you did kind of go off and do some other wearables and other stuff on some other chains. The token itself dropped on Sol. How do you guys look at the various options now? There's just a far more sophisticated suite of options to like build on now than it was back in 2021, right? How are you guys looking at that? What's your perspective? ETH versus Sol versus Hyperliquid versus Flow versus all these things. What's your take?
Yeah, we're in a really different place in 2025 than we were in 2021. I think
100%, yeah.
Chain abstraction and interop are no longer memes; they're real. The wallets are supporting more and more chains every day. People are used to switching in between chains, and they can do so very easily directly within their wallets now. So we, for all of our products, kind of just take a first principles approach. We don't start with the blockchain in mind. We start with who is the customer that we are trying to reach? How are we going to build the best distribution? What resources are we going to need? And then figure out who can be the best partner for that. And so we're actually going through that process with Dreamnet right now, where we're evaluating, okay, like for something like the agentic economy, like who has a really robust developer activity, who has a place where a lot of agents are being created, like who can get us on all of the right wallets and mini apps, and ensuring that we can get in front of people is really the name of the game. Like distribution, I think, particularly when you're building consumer, is everything. It can be different in other perspectives. My high level thesis, and this is a personal opinion that I think I've shared with both of you at one point or another. I continue to think ETH will dominate institutional for the reason that you kind of just highlighted, which is like, this is where I go to do all of my big boy DeFi money stuff. All of the banks are already setting up private blockchains that are EVM. It just is the safest. It's been around the longest. People trust it. So I think it will be really hard for any other blockchain to displace them. On retail, I think it's anyone's game, but Solana is like the clear leader. And I think it will be really challenging to displace them, purely looking at where app revenue is today. Solana is over 50% of all app revenue. So it's really challenging for any, it's crazy. It's really challenging for any blockchain to credibly be like, hey, build an app here, we'll help you make money, when the numbers are what they are. And obviously those are highly skewed by all of the launch pads that are taking place there, but it is what it is. And so that's kind of my thinking on it. I think them bringing on Nikita to help with like products going viral was a really strong move. They're doubling down on AI development overall. So that's kind of my thinking, is like both of these chains are going to win in different places. And then you'll see emerging ones win as well. Like I think what Sui is doing is super interesting. I think they have a chance, them and AVAX and gaming in particular. And then Hyperliquid, I know everyone is like really interested in. The volumes continue to develop. I've played with it a bunch. I still think bridging is a pain in the ass, but I get why people like it.
That's really interesting kind of business insight. I was looking at those Solana app numbers just the other day. It's just an incredible story from where they've gone to 2021 to now absolutely dominate that revenue thing. What a play from them, just in general, the team, whoever, everyone involved, phenomenal stuff. Very, very impressive.
There's also just this insight might be helpful to the listeners as well. Like when you if you're us, right, you're Doodles, and you want to partner with a blockchain to release a product, there is no one on mainnet to talk to.
Yeah.
But it's not even an option.
Complained about the same thing. Yeah.
It which is a real big deal. Like I cannot say enough positive things, particularly about the Solana and Base teams, where we have a question, we have someone to go to, they connect us. Like they're effectively like extensions of our team. They help us with business development. They help us with development. They're obviously like creating new things for their chains that we're able to get the benefit of. We do co-marketing together. Like there's a lot of real benefit. None of that exists on mainnet. There's no one you can go talk to.
I have heard the first anecdotal examples of people getting reached out to from
that's a huge step.
some mainnet people. Which was a huge surprise, but as you say,
yeah,
it's one of the big complaints, I think, that a lot of people have felt, either not being seen or not being valued or not having a point of contact. But apparently that is starting to turn around. So I'd be very intrigued to see how that goes moving forward. But I appreciate that. That's like awesome business insight. So I think that's super helpful to us and the audience. Look, we've only got a couple minutes left. Ledge, do you want to just run through this Maplestory news, because it's launched at an insane valuation? Would love the quick breakdown here. I know you're more clued up on the gaming side. What do we need to know?
Yeah, absolutely. Maplestory is actually one of the games that I did grow up with. It came out in 2003. Like this game is 22 years old, and it used to be one of the most popular 2D MMOs in the world. I think overall racked up 260 million players in its lifetime, still being played. And they have Maplestory N, which is the blockchain spin-off, the Web3 spin-off of the game, if you will. And the token launched today, actually launched before the game, and it did seriously impressive numbers. Hunter had a post on that. On its initial wick, it went up to $14 billion of FDV. It's currently trading at $3 billion of FDV. That is with a float of roughly 17%, which also then means that the airdrop that they did airdrop 1.4% of the total NXPC tokens, is worth a cumulative $45 million. So one of the biggest airdrops. Abi put it very nicely by saying that the airdrop alone is bigger than the total market cap of some other Web3 games out there. In terms of things to do, Maplestory also did post this just before the show launched. The game, or Maplestory N, is now available, and you can start with the character minting. There is a promotional period going on. If you do it within this period, you'll also get a soulbound token. So that is obviously after the TGE, but definitely one of the not one of the most impressive gaming launch in terms of starting FDV we have seen in quite a while, and very curious to see how the game will play out, how it will feel. Will it be able to trigger the nostalgia of people who have played it, millions of people who've played it before? Obviously, they still have a massive player base. But it's just the one thought I had, and I know we are over time. So this came out at $3 billion FDV. And in the snapshot, you mentioned, where is it? eToro. Where is it? Where's eToro?
4.2 bill.
Yeah, at 4.2 bill. And eToro has 38 million users. I don't know how many million accounts. 14.
What are you trying to say, Legendary?
$16 billion in TVL.
Like, saying eToro is undervalued.
No, whenever I see like valuations that real companies in the real world come out at, and then I compare it back to the valuations we have in this space, I'm like, yeah, no, this is such a massive discrepancy.
You know, it's an interesting point, because I think we're going to get more of that. Like, now that the regulatory side of things is getting taken care of in the States, and you're going to see more people. I mean, just, what was it, at the start of this week, Animoca Brands, there's news that they want to IPO, right?
Do you know what I'm waiting for? I'm waiting for the first company who's like, fuck it, we're a $4 billion business if we IPO, but if we were to launch a token, we could be a $40 billion business. I'm waiting for the first big company to be like, we're not going to IPO, we're going to find a way to TGE.
But that's what I mean. Like, how much more? Like, is Animoca Brands bigger than this bank? Look, I don't know the specific numbers, but is Animoca Brands bigger than Maplestory? I think so, because it's probably like a Maplestory. I don't know. But my point is, I think we're going to see more of these interesting comparisons where some of these Web3 companies get their equity out there via IPO, and then we'll be looking at these numbers as a comparison, and it might be quite entertaining. Austin, final take from you here. just more on a personal one, maybe. Are you big into gaming? Do you follow like the specific gaming stuff a lot? I saw in the comments, Oxy said you either played Maplestory or RuneScape. I think I'm one of the only people in the space that has zero gaming background. I know there's so many success stories because everyone equates crypto trading and NFT stuff with all of the trading that people did in all of these games. I have none of that experience, but just curious from a personal perspective, what your experience was.
I was more of like Age of Empires, like
Okay.
Civ, Roller Coaster Tycoon, and then on console, you know, it was COD and like all of the RPGs, Skyrim. Like I definitely was a big gamer growing up and in college. I didn't play either of those either.
Okay.
I knew of Maplestory and got to spend some time with their team a few years ago in Korea. So like I've been following them a lot, but I never played any of those games.
Interesting. Did you find that those games were like has helped in the crypto in navigating the crypto volatility and the trading?
I think, I don't know. I think I take more of like the collector's mindset, which is probably why I'm not the greatest trader. But like, I grew up collecting Pokemon cards, and then it was sneakers.
Got it.
So
Yeah.
like I've always had that collector's mindset. I think a lot of NFT people are like that versus like token traders. So yeah, that's probably more my angle.
Interesting. Very, very interesting stuff. But look, guys, we've run out of time. As usual, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour live on X video, YouTube, and you can also catch up on Apple and Spotify podcasts too. Thank you to everyone for joining us. Thanks, Legendary, for co-hosting, and Austin, thanks so much for joining us, man. It's been great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, guys, take care. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.